She has no phone reception, but she does have photo of the two kids. The 6-year-old is the girl, I believe, and she's wearing pink. The 4-year-old is wearing some blue dinosaur boots. The drone operator is still on scene with the mom, so...
That's Nova Scotian police responding to Malaya Brooks Murray's 911 call about her missing children, and it concerns me greatly. So in today's video, let's analyze the rest of that recently collected audio, courtesy of Plunder True Crime, and I'll show you why. I'm Deception Detective, an attorney trained in statement analysis. This channel exposes lies and manipulation, so if that's your thing, hit subscribe. For exclusives, early access, and other cool perks, consider becoming a channel member. Link in description. If you're not familiar with this case or just not up to speed, don't worry because Plunder does a good job of recapping the case and explaining what data she's collected about it. So there's just one last thing I want to quickly do before we grab our deception decks and start analyzing that dispatch audio, and that's play a clip from my first video in this series so you understand how I approach new cases like this one, where details are sparse and stories are still developing. If you've been here for a while, you'll know that I'm a big proponent of Bayesian reasoning. In other words, our baseline is set at the statistically most likely scenario. In the case of missing children, one of the most likely scenarios is that they wandered off and got lost. So any evidence that suggests that theory will weigh heavily right away. But any evidence of something less likely, like a stranger kidnapping or a UFO abduction, will be really hesitant to weigh that evidence very heavily unless it's amazingly convincing evidence. And I know it might sound biased or unscientific, but it's actually one of the best frameworks for making predictions. And based on statistics about missing children, the exacerbating factor of a stepfather rather than a biological father in the home, and the strange statements this mother's making, I'm going into this already suspecting that the children probably wandered off. It might be worse, but I'm going to say probably wandered off, and that they might be lying about it because they were drugged up or neglectful or something of that ilk. Obviously, a lot has changed since then, but right up until I heard this dispatch audio I'm about to play for you right now, and we'll break it down together, I thought that was the most likely scenario. Now I think it's tied for first place. So without further ado, let's listen.
Where are little Lily and Jack Sullivan? That's the question many people are trying to answer, and many people have been working so hard over the past week to discover. Supposedly these little ones, these 4- and 6-year-old children, went missing allegedly when they opened a sliding glass door at their home in Canada, in Nova Scotia, and just disappeared into the ether. Is that what really happened or what? I've been digging into this case and I've dug into 48 hours worth of dispatch. The available archives, that's why I get a professional account over on Broadcastify, because I want to be able to just find data, find helpful information in cases like these, especially a case like this where the rumors are running rampant. So let's try and talk about facts. I went over 48 hours worth of audio, pulled it into my editor, and I've extracted about 30 minutes worth of information I found interesting or relevant, not just the communications trying to figure out logistics and stuff.
So that's the recap of the case in case you weren't familiar with it. And as you can see, before we even start listening to the audio that Paula has collected, there's red flags flying everywhere. We have 2 little children who vanished without a trace. And when I analyzed the mother in that video I played a clip from earlier, I found her to be deceptive. I especially noted that she was insistent that she immediately called 911. So hopefully when I play this next clip of dispatch audio, you'll recognize why I'm pointing that out. All right, let's listen.
She has no phone reception, but she does have photo of the two kids. The 6-year-old is the girl, I believe, and she's wearing pink. The 4-year-old is wearing some blue dinosaur boots. So, yeah, I think that's all we kind of have right now. The drone operator is still on scene with the mom, so.
Just make sure mom stays close to the house there in case they happen to sneak out and get back into the house.
This is a Canadian case, so it might be a while before we get that 911 call audio, if ever. But based on the clues that we have here, we can deduce that the mother did not have enough reception at the house to send the police photos of her kids, which makes me wonder if she had enough reception to call 911 from the house. Or did she have to drive somewhere else to do that too? If you've been here for a while, you'll know that it's never a good sign when the parent of a missing child takes a long drive right after calling 911 or before calling 911. We saw it in the Madeline So case where her mom's boyfriend drove miles away to dump her dead body. We also saw it in the Chris Watts case where he drove far away to dump his dead children. The thing is, all those cases happened in urban and suburban areas, so those long drives were able to be tracked pretty precisely with cell phone tower pings, CCTV cameras, Ring doorbell cameras, and even eyewitnesses. Meanwhile, this case happened in rural Nova Scotia, so my big question is, if Malaya didn't have enough reception to send photos of her kids to the police, did she at least have enough reception to call 911, or did she have a landline? And if not, how far away did she have to go to get that reception? Does she just have to walk down the driveway? Or does she have to drive a couple miles? And if it's the latter, and she has to drive a couple miles to get reception, is there any way to track that drive? Do we know she only drove to where she got reception? Or could she have gone way farther in order to hide little children?
Graphic little star over.
I know there's a lake nearby. Daniel did talk to the press. I'm grateful he's talking to the press. He talked about allegedly authorities searching bodies of water or something like that. But then the Mounties don't want to confirm anything to the public.
That's of RCMP in the area that I've seen. They were at Lansdowne Lake, and they told me that they scoured the lake, divers, and sonared the lake, and there's no evidence at all. If they were in this area, would have found them. My family's still searching.
The CTV News report from Friday, May 9th, quotes Daniel as going on to say, and we're never going to give hope. I don't know if he actually said that. We're going to continue to look and probably continue to look for the rest of my life. That is an interesting quote. I hope we get that video of him too, the rest of him saying that, because those are quite a couple of quotes. I don't know if he meant to say we're never going to give up hope, and that's what he actually said, and it's a misprint, but he's expecting to look for the rest of his life as if he'll never find Lily and Jack. So if they're looking and finding like little stickers, that shows you the detail. And I think this was really late at night, if I'm not mistaken. I have different times on the audio and I'm like, whoa, they found that so late at night. They're really looking. It was on the bridge. You know, they're looking for real great detail, clues. That's how detailed these searchers are. There was a canine unit, according to the audio, that was tasked to investigate the blanket. Now, we heard about this.
This is Colchester Base calling the K-9 unit tasked to investigate the blanket. Do you copy? Over?
True crime audio.
This is Bravo 3. I was with Kilo 2 like 3 seconds ago. He went towards the main road there.
When Daniel said he might have to search for the rest of his life, that was a red flag. Paula was right about that. And that's because it belies some sort of knowledge that he'll never find the children. It's like OJ saying that he'll look for Nicole's real killer for the rest of his life. Or John and Patsy Ramsey saying the same thing about John Bonet's quote-unquote kidnapper. Does this mean that Daniel's the culprit and he killed the children? Not necessarily. If you've seen my other videos in this series, you'll know I actually think he's far less involved than the mother is. But it does suggest he knows more than he's telling us, whether that knowledge is that his girlfriend, their mother, had a temper and may have actually done something permanent to them, or that they disappeared days before she reported them missing, so she would have had ample time to hide them somewhere, or that he knows who kidnapped them. In other words, he knows they're actually kidnapped and they're not going to get found. Since we don't have this on film, as Paula pointed out, it may have just been a typo, maybe the journalist got it wrong, but I suspect their editors realize how damning that is, so they cut it out of the video so people like me can't jump all over it. Another thing that jumped out to me about this audio is how thorough and minute the search is. In other words, they found little boot prints, and they even found little stickers of stars. If there was actually an abductor who came and took the children, wouldn't he have had to drive there? Would they not find unknown tire tracks in the area? Would they not have found the abductor's footprint somewhere as well? After all, an abductor, big enough to take 2 children at once, would surely have bigger feet than the kids and be heavier enough to leave deeper impressions. And if there were multiple abductors, we'd expect to find way more clues about their presence. Check the end card for my other videos about this case. If you want more like this, please comment, like, and subscribe. Until next time, stay true.